Hello, fabulous scholars. Welcome back to some more Read Aloud. We are getting towards the end of the book, but Scheherazade still has a few tales left to tell, even though King Shahryar isn't listening as carefully as he used to. He's got something else on his mind. So we are on the tale of the leg of mutton, which means meat from a sheep. On the 997th night after her marriage, Scheherazade said to Shahryar, "Have you not said to me, a woman looks into a man's purse to judge how much she can love him? It is said that there was just such a woman in Cairo, though who can tell if it is true, who loved money so much that she could not find a husband rich enough to satisfy her. The girl, whose name was Rhea, was wooed by two men. That means two men wanted to marry her. One, a robber named Haram, the other, a pickpocket called Akil. Now Haram, like the hyena, worked at night, breaking into houses and stealing from the boats that rocked along the Nile. Akil, like the jackal, worked by day among the crowds of the bazaar and the jostling pockets of the cattle market. Consequently, Haram slept and ate by day, and Akil slept and ate by night. On the day Rhea agreed to marry Hiram, she took him to an empty house near Victory Gate and said, "The rent on this lovely house is only 200 dinars a month. We shall live here in love and prosperity all the days of our married life." The next day, she took Akil the pickpocket by the hand and led him to the same house near Victory Gate. "Dearest Akil," she said, "the rent on this lovely house is only 200 dinars a month. I will marry you if we can live here." So Rhea married both Akil and Haram, though neither groom knew that he was sharing the bride. And since Haram worked like a hyena at nighttime and Akil worked like a jackal by day, they were never at home at the same time. Rhea received housekeeping money from both husbands, and every month both gave her 200 dinars to pay the rent. Rhea's wardrobe, that means her clothes, as a result, was the finest in Cairo, and her throat and wrists were decorated with the finest Indian silver, and her hair was braided with colored silk. Her two husbands gloried in their delightful wife and prided themselves on finding a woman who could eke out her allowance to such good effect. Remember, they don't know that she's getting money from two husbands. At the inn in the city, Haram bragged about the valuable prize he had locked away at home. At the Turkish baths, Akil bragged that his wife was the prettiest treasure any man ever locked in a treasure chest. Well, the following summer, a great and infamous bandit in the mountains of the Rif organized a congress of thieves and villains and invited all the burglars, footpads, robbers, bandits, pickpockets, confidence tricksters, and horse thieves for a week of festivities. "I must leave the city on business for a while," said Haram to his wife. "Oh, roof of my heart, keel of my ship's body, what shall I do without my beloved husband?" said Rhea. But she packed him a meal for his journey, kissed him warmly, and waved him goodbye from the door. When Akil came home that evening, he gave her the purses he had stolen that day and said, "It breaks my heart, but I must leave Cairo on business for a while." "Oh, floor of my heart, mast of my body's ship, what shall I do without my beloved husband?" said Rhea. But she packed him a meal for his journey, kissed him warmly, and waved goodbye from the door. At the end of a day's traveling, Haram the robber built a campfire and settled down for a sleep. He was woken by the shadow of a passing camel thrown across him by the firelight. "Stranger," he called to the rider, "the blessings of Allah on your head. Will you share food with me and tell me the news from the desert?" Akil got off his camel and sat down beside Haram. "I have only come from Cairo today," he replied. And, as is the custom of the desert, they emptied out their parcels of food to share them equally. "No wife in Cairo can pack a meal as appetizing as mine can," said Haram. "See here, she has given me dates, grapes, half a leg of cold mutton, half a loaf of sesame bread she baked herself, and a slice of cake, some melons, and an almonds." "Allah Akbar!" exclaimed Akim. "Do you know what my wife has given me? Dates, grapes, half a leg of cold mutton, half a loaf of sesame bread she baked herself, and a slice of cake, some almonds, and a melon." They looked at the food laid out on the flaps of their saddlebags and marveled at the coincidence. Then Hiram leaned across and took Akil's half leg of mutton and held it against his own piece of cold meat. Lo and behold, they fitted together exactly. "Our wives must shop at the same butcher. Is it not remarkable that neighbors should travel this far in order to meet for the first time? Where do you live?" "Near Cairo's Victory Gate," replied the pickpocket. As they spoke, they both reached for some sesame bread. Akil caught Hiram's wrist. "Tell me something, friend. Does your wife buy her bread at the baker's?" "No, indeed. Her thrift is a shining example to other men's wives. I woke to the smell of this loaf baking. Our wives must be the best of friends. They even share the food of their kitchens." "You're not helping Maudie." Akil took the half loaf out of Hiram's hand and fitted it end to end with his own half. "But I had the smell of this loaf in my nostrils as I fell asleep yesterday. Tell me, if you will dispel my fears, exactly where is your home by the Victory Gate?" "Mine is the third house from the laundry. It has a small oak door and a rent of 200 dinars a month. Now tell me, so it will dispel my own fears, exactly what your wife is called." "She is called Rhea, as is yours, sir, and I believe we share the same house." Both men thought at first to seize the other man by the throat and kill the rival who had robbed him of half his wife. But as they tumbled into the ashes of the fire, Akil pushed Hiram away and said, "Wait, friend, why are we quarreling? We have more in common than two brothers from the same mother. We have both been tricked by Rhea." They saddled their camels and galloped back into Cairo, swearing vengeance on the woman who had emptied their 4 pockets for a whole year. "The shame of it!" cried Hiram as he pushed the door open of the little house near Victory Gate. "The extravagance, the waste!" cried Akil, climbing the stairs. "The wicked, deceitful treachery of women!" cried both the wrong husbands as they seized Rhea, each by a wrist. "Oh, for the love of Allah," she cried, "what will you do to me?" "We shall tear you in half like a chicken's wishbone and see which one of us gets the larger piece. Then we will see if there are 2 men in Cairo so foolish as to buy 2 halves of one worthless woman as we did. When we have finished with you, the 2 halves of your body will not fit together as neatly as did the leg of mutton or the sesame loaf you used for our meals." But the time that an angry man spends in shouting at his wife only gives her time to think of an answer. Rhea looked first at one husband and then the other, and her brown eyes ran salt tears. "Houses of my heart," she said, "you are welcome to my life at any hour of the day or night, but will you be so heartless as to let me die in ignorance? What have I done to offend you?" At these bold words, Akil and Hiram were so shocked that they let go of her wrists and fell off their feet. "I loved you both equally," she said, "and I could not choose between you. So I found a means to squeeze happiness enough for 3 out of the fruit of one small wife. Have you not bragged at the inn, Hiram, that your wife is the best dressed woman in Cairo because of her thrift? Have you not bragged, Akil, that your wife could do more with her housekeeping money than any woman in Cairo? Do you think the takings of one petty thief could keep him in linen shirts and his wife in Indian silver and silk? Get along with you. You can go to my brother's party in the Riff and say that his sister sends her love to the greatest bandit of all, and that she is happy and well with two good husbands to look after her in her old age. Now, no one in Cairo discovered the secret of Akil the pickpocket and Haram the robber, for if they had, both men would have been shamed into exile. Those who tell the tale of the leg of mutton say that the two husbands were so afraid when they discovered that their brother-in-law was the great bandit of the Riff that they lived on in the little house near Victory Gate just as if nothing had happened. Others say that they saw the wisdom of Rhea's words and went on bragging about their thrifty and beautiful wife. But that is absurd, for who could think that one silly woman could outwit two clever believers who earned their living by theft and trickery? King Shahryar stared at his wife in disbelief that she had dared tell him such a story. Are you so sick of life, Scheherazade, that you remind me of women's deceitfulness? Do you think I haven't seen what trick you are playing to keep your head on your shoulders night after night? I deny myself the pleasure of cutting off your head for the sake of the greater pleasure of hearing your stories. But now you have reminded me that a woman's love for a man is no greater or smaller than the size of his purse. Why did you tell it, Scheherazade? We'll find out next time, scholars.